like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everyone. This is the final To The Point of the week on here on GB News with me, Patrick, Christys Mercy Muroki, on TV, radio and online. We've got an absolutely massive show for you today, covering the latest from NATO, exposing a little bit of fake news. It's 1 year to the day since the Batley Grammar School teacher was suspended, and loads more.
Yes, make sure you get in touch with your views as usual, gbviews at gbnews.uk. We'll be getting to those throughout the show, but first, it's the latest news.
Good morning, it's 1 minute past 10. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Ukrainian president's told the European Union it acted too late to stop the Russian invasion by failing to impose sanctions and to block the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline earlier. Volodymyr Zelensky said he was grateful to the EU for the steps they've taken, but urged the Union to act swiftly in accepting Ukraine's membership.
А тепер ми з вами готуємо членство України в Європейському Союзі.
Now, you and I are preparing Ukraine's membership in the European Union. I'm here asking you not to be late. Please. Because during the last month you have compared our worlds and you've seen everything. You saw who is worth what. And you saw that Ukraine should be in the EU in the near future. You have everything for that. And we have this chance.
Volodymyr Zelensky there. President Joe Biden has announced a joint game plan between the US and the EU that will reduce Europe's dependency on Russian energy. As part of it, the US will provide the EU with at least 15 billion additional cubic metres of liquefied natural gas by the end of the year. During a joint press conference with European Union Chief Ursula von der Leyen in Brussels, he said the EU shouldn't subsidise Putin's brutal attack on Ukraine.
I know that eliminating Russian gas will have costs for Europe, but it's not only the right thing to do from a moral standpoint, it's going to put us on a much stronger strategic footing.
The Transport Secretary says the P&O Ferries boss should resign after sacking 800 workers without notice, replacing them with cheaper agency staff. CEO Peter Hebblethwaite admitted the new crews are being paid below the UK's minimum wage on international routes, but he insists it is legal. Grant Shapps told GB News his actions were unacceptable, adding that he'll change the law so the company must pay minimum wage.
It was brazen, breathtaking, arrogant, as he sat there and told Parliament, we decided it would be better to break the law. We are going to make it absolutely clear that is unacceptable. They are going to need to do a U-turn because I'm going to come forward next week with a package of measures to Parliament, which will require ships that sail from here to be on a regular route, applying the regular route, to be paying the minimum wage.
Grant Shapps there. The government's announcing a tenfold increase in public electric car charging points. The Department for Transport's investing £500 million to boost the UK's 30,000 charge points to 300,000 by 2030. That will also be the year when the sale of new petrol and diesel cars and vans will be banned in the UK. A loophole allowing drivers to avoid punishment for using their mobile phones for taking photos or playing games is now closed. The new rule bans virtually all hand use of mobiles on Britain's roads, with anyone caught facing a potential fine of up to £1,000 as well as 6 points on their licence. The number of elderly people admitted to hospital with coronavirus in England has jumped to its highest level in more than a year. Last week, the number of hospitalised patients over the age of 85 was 178 per 100,000. That's up by 137 on the previous week. That's the highest number since mid-January of last year, when the second wave of the virus was at its peak. COVID restrictions in Wales, meanwhile, are set to be relaxed further from Monday. A legal requirement to wear face coverings in shops and on public transport will end, as well as the need to self-isolate. Masks will still be required in health and care settings, and businesses must continue to carry out COVID-19 risk assessments. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says the Taliban's decision to shut school doors to girls in Afghanistan is unjustifiable. The foreign ministers of UK, US, Canada, France, Italy, Norway and the High Representative of the European Union have all condemned the decision in a joint statement. They say denying girls' right to an education in Afghanistan contradicts the Taliban's previous assurances to the Afghan people and to the international community. And the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are visiting the Bahamas as they begin their final leg of their Caribbean tour. The Bahamian Prime Minister acknowledged the Queen's Jubilee, saying, "We'll never see a reign like hers again." That as they face strong criticism from campaigners seeking reparations from the monarchy for its role in the slave trade. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens now, though. It's back to Patrick and Anaya with To The Point.
Good morning, this is To The Point on GB News with me, Anaya Flower Iman and Patrick Christys on your TV, radio and online. We've got a great show lined up to kickstart your day, so here's what's on the menu.
Right, well, as Russia's invasion of Ukraine enters day 30, US President Joe Biden warns Russia to expect a response in kind if chemical weapons are used, stating that NATO has never been more united. We'll be joined by an advisor to the Ukrainian Parliament, the very latest on all of that.
Yes, and the Chancellor Rishi Sunak's spring statement doesn't do enough to protect people on lower incomes. That is what a national poverty charity Turn to Us say, and they'll be joining us to discuss this further.
A new law now means drivers risk a £200 fine and 6 points on their licence if they use their phones at the wheel. Our London reporter Alice Porter gives us the details on all of that.
Absolutely, we have all of that coming up and much more across the programme, so make sure you get in touch with your views, gbviews@gbnews.uk. But first, Patrick gives his views on Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson was the victim of fake news yesterday, not caused by Putin's propaganda team, rather several trusted British news outlets. You know, the usual suspects who brand themselves as being drenched in journalistic integrity, honour and thoroughness. As our Prime Minister attended the NATO summit, a video emerged of him standing on his own with his hands in his pockets as other world leaders slapped each other on the back. Several media outlets jumped on this. Boris isolated at NATO, Boris ignored by world leaders. In reality, the opposite is true. Let's play the clip. So for our radio listeners there, what we can see is that Boris Johnson is essentially just being greeted by all and sundry. Macron gives him a big handshake. There's Joe Biden shuffling towards him, rather slowly, of course. But there we are. Now, that's, of course, the fact that Boris Johnson was far from isolated. And even if he had been left isolated, that would have been a good thing, wouldn't it? If other world leaders felt the need to shun Boris, it could only have been because of their jealousy at the fact that Britain is now a sovereign, independent nation. It's one of the first countries in the world to emerge from the COVID crisis, and we've led the way when it came to the Ukraine conflict. If it really was the case that EU leaders snubbed our Prime Minister, it would have been because they felt the need to prove what a tight-knit little club they're in. It would have been, "You're not coming to my birthday party" vibes, wouldn't it? But the sad fact for the EU leaders is that we already had plans that evening anyway. I think the reporting of Boris at NATO highlights a somewhat masochistic streak running through our media. They want Britain to be isolated, to be a little country with no prospects, who is the pariah of the world, led by a clown who's the butt of other world leaders' jokes. It's sad, that, isn't it? If you don't like it here, there are loads of other countries you can go to and live in. Take your pick. Nobody's stopping you. Why spend your time pumping out fake news that's deliberately designed to make us and our leader look weak, to undermine us, to pour scorn on our nation? It undermines their journalistic credentials and reveals the true extent of their bias. And the fact that a lot of people just jumped on the bandwagon as well and started retweeting it without bothering to check the full clip shows you just how gleeful they are to jump on any chance to slag off Boris. It's pathetic. Many of these people voted for Jeremy Corbyn. Well, he'd probably want to pull us out of NATO, wouldn't he? He thinks NATO is responsible for the Ukraine crisis, for goodness sake. He'd have been much more isolated than Boris at that meeting, wouldn't he? At least these other world leaders know who Boris is. If Keir Starmer turned up, they'd probably all think he was someone's chauffeur or a really dull personal assistant. There were, of course, other world leaders stood on their own for a bit as well too, weren't they? But I suppose the headline, "Some world leaders stand on their own while Boris also stands on his own for a bit after saying hello to everyone," doesn't really generate many clicks. And aside from all that, I don't particularly think Boris looked too uncomfortable in those brief, fleeting moments where he was standing alone. I personally don't want a PM who feels the need to pat everyone on the back and give big, meaningless hugs to his counterparts from lesser nations. Yeah, I just found it. Oh, hello everyone, still me. Yes, I found it quite surprising, actually, really, that Boris Johnson was kind of bracketed as that. At some point, hopefully, we bring my co-host back into play here. Inaya Flanagan is sitting right next to me. Well, or not, fair enough. Well, GBViews at GBnews.uk, and there you are, Inaya. You've reappeared.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound a little bit like my country, right or wrong. I mean, it's like, well, he wasn't standing alone, but even if he was, it's because everyone else was jealous. So is there no way that he can be critiqued?
No. I'm saying that because he wasn't standing alone. What I'm saying is, if he had been there and it was all very palsy, wowsy, everyone there, Macron has to shake everyone's hand like this, doesn't he? But Macron's shaking people's hands, the big pats on the back, and it all means nothing. Look how united we are, and this, that, and the other. I mean, they're not united, are they?
Yeah, I mean, I think Boris Johnson did look somewhat awkward, and I think maybe he brought it upon himself because he does put these kind of bizarre faces.
Well, he does.
Yeah,
yes.
he doesn't have
hands in his pockets
and looks around a bit confused. But ultimately, I'm not sure I agree with this Britain, leading the world.
You're not.
In that respect, I think we're doing our part.
You hate this country.
I'm actually quite patriotic.
I know you are. No, fair enough.
I take your point.
Absolutely. All right, well, look, come on, people, keep getting in touch. GBViews at GBnews.uk. Make sure you keep these views flooding in. But we're going to move away from Boris Johnson, definitely not being isolated on NATO, and talk about what's going on in Ukraine.
Yes, well, day 30 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and NATO, G7 and EU leaders have held an emergency meeting in Brussels to reinforce their support for Ukraine and discuss further measures against Moscow.
Well, US President Joe Biden and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen have held a press conference where they unveiled measures to wean Europe off Russian energy imports.
Yes, this comes after Biden warned Russia to expect a response in kind if chemical weapons are used, stating that, quote, NATO has never been more united. Mykola Volkaliski is an advisor to the Ukrainian parliament and joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, do you think, firstly, that NATO has never been more united? Do you agree with Joe Biden's statements there?
Of course, good morning, Patrick. Yeah, it was important because we expected this extraordinary summit with all Ukrainian authorities and nations. During the presidential speech, we also was united with the topic. But unfortunately, we know the Polish authorities, they proposed to send the peaceful mission to Ukraine, but NATO countries wouldn't accept this kind of support. But obviously, the most important what we had after this summit, that NATO is united around the Ukraine, but most what we needed, we need some more powerful agreements and issues will be supported for our country. It's what the Ukrainian president mentioned. I just remind you when during presidential speech in Munich Security Conference on 17th of February, President Zelensky said that how its NATO countries will invite Ukraine to be a NATO member with closed door. It's policy, quite proceeding now. But I'm in Warsaw now, and all of Ukrainians, authorities and Polish, they waiting for official visit of Joseph Biden, because in few hours he will arrive here. Just remind you, last presidential visit to President USA to Warsaw, it was July 2017 during the Trump's visit. Hello? Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to get your take just while you were talking about Biden there. So he said that NATO would respond. That's his quote. Would respond if Putin uses chemical weapons. He said that such an attack by Putin would trigger a response in kind. He's not very specific, is he, about what it is that he actually thinks NATO would do. He also said the nature of the response would depend on the nature of use. Is this a little bit like the territory of, well, just a minor incursion into Ukraine might not promote any kind of response whatsoever? Do you not want Biden to be more specific?
I think he said that NATO will respond if Russia try to use these chemical weapons against Ukraine, or, for example, if they try to do something against Poland. But they already, shooting by phosphorus missiles in the cities of Lugansk region. But it's a pity, because now it's worst humanitarian situation in the city of Mariupol, for example, and Chernihiv. They already using some of these kind of weapons against our country. But thankfully for Biden's statement, they said that America also united around the Ukraine and around the Ukrainian issue against Russia. But we will see what will be the next. Also we are waiting for official press conference between President Duda and President Biden tomorrow. The announcement will be tomorrow, and today also the Biden will visit some refugee center in Warsaw. It's also, and I heard from my friends in Ukraine, it will be some meetings today with Ukrainians in the Palace of Culture in Warsaw at 5 o'clock. The main issue, what they want, to ask for President Biden, it's the close sky over Ukraine. But hopefully the summit was good for our country. But we prefer the NATO be more united around the Ukrainian issues. And thank you for support, even Great Britain, of this topic. Thank you.
No, thank you as well for coming to speak about your thoughts. I mean, on that point about how united NATO and the EU and G7 are, I mean, there has been some discussion that some countries have been backtracking a little bit. So, for example, Germany, because they are, as we know, highly dependent on Russian oil, that they are a bit worried in relation to further sanctions on Russia, and similarly with Hungary and I think a few other countries. I mean, what do you think of that? Do you worry that some countries may not maintain their resolve against Russia as the coming months, as a lot of the sanctions begin to bite other countries as well?
I write the article in October, and with the title, Budapest closer to Moscow than Brussels, because you remember this was the time when Hungary made the agreement with Gazprom. It's why the policy of Viktor Orban, I try to worry about the situation. But also the Hungarian authorities now try to use in Ukrainian situation before the elections, before we know the parliamentary elections will exist in 3rd of April, just in two next weeks. Also some of this political campaign around the Ukraine is also using the President Macron. It's Ukraine is a part of his political campaign. In my opinion. But also the Klaus Iohannis, the president of Romania, he's also the more neutral, because we know Romania is a member of NATO since 2004. But mostly I just worried about Viktor Orban and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary, Peter Szijjártó, because they try to be on the middle between Russia and European Union. But we think, but I hope this Viktor Orban after the next elections will be more closer to Ukraine, because I just spent even 1 or more weeks between Polish-Hungarian border, and I saw what's going on here. But I saw more for Ukrainians, the help volunteer organizations such as Red Cross and Caritas when some authorities or state government. But this is my opinion. But I think the Orban, he's closer now, more neutral between Moscow and Brussels.
Exactly, yeah. There seems to have been a bit of a shift. Mikola, thank you very much. Mikola Volkvinsky there is an advisor to the Ukrainian president and obviously has just joined us then. Thank you very much for your time. I thought it was fascinating stuff, that really was.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, he made a very interesting point, actually, about that there is upcoming parliamentary elections in Hungary, presidential elections in a matter of a couple of weeks. So it's going to be very interesting in terms of what the position will be of Hungary following those elections.
Yeah, indeed. Right, OK, so let's go into, the terrifying world of my inbox, GBViews at gbnews.uk. Let's see what the great British public have been saying. Biden cannot be more specific. Do you reveal your hand in poker before or after your opponent reveals his? OK, fair enough, Rod. I think it might be nice to have some proper red lines, though.
Well, yeah, because I think, chemical weapons is a very high red line. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to potentially could go catastrophically wrong before that is reached. And I do think that is another worrying, almost kind of open vagueness for Putin, which I think he does need, as you're right, much more firm red lines.
I think he responds to that, Putin's a quote-unquote strong man, isn't he? And they kind of deal with very, very obvious red lines, I suppose. Lots of reaction to the speech I did earlier about Boris Johnson at NATO. Says that, this is Mrs. C, I believe, says that Boris has proved that we are not sheep. We do not follow. We lead, unlike the rest of the world. She's got very rose-tinted glasses on, but I love to see it, Mrs. C. Thank you very much. And yes, lots of people getting in touch about that, basically saying...
Yeah, I think that the strongest...
Not as isolated as he looked.
Yeah, I think the strongest point you made is the way that some sections, it does seem, of the media grab onto some of these clips without any context in order to make a broader political point. To undermine the government and Boris Johnson, and I don't think that that's very helpful. But it's also very worrying that people seem to want to do Britain down.
This is it.
I mean, why would you want to undermine your country internationally? I mean, that just seems quite strange to me.
This is really the bit that I absolutely don't get, OK? It does appear to me anyway, like there are huge numbers of people in this country, whether it's in the media or just in society, who almost want us to fail so they can go, I told you so. And it's
Brexit.
like, well, it's like pouring petrol through your own letterbox and lighting the match and then going back inside, isn't it? Anyway, coming up, did Chancellor Rishi Sunak's spring statement do it for you? Was it enough to tackle the cost of living crisis? A poverty charity says no and joins us to explain why next. Stay tuned.
Good morning, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather update from the Met Office. A crackerjack of a Friday, if you like. Spring sunshine. Yes, it's a bit misty and murky in places, and it's a bit chilly out there this morning, but plenty more sunshine to come today and into the weekend because of this. A chunky area of high pressure that's been steadily building through the week and is going to last into the weekend. As I said, it's a bit chilly out there first thing, and there is some mist and fog. Parts of Northern Ireland may take a couple more hours before that clears away. There's a thicker cloud across Shetland as well. We'll see some rain on and off here that may just drift towards Orkney later. This afternoon, the small chance of 1 or 2 isolated showers over Northern England, Northern Ireland, perhaps across the mountains of Wales. But for the vast majority, it is simply a sunny and pretty warm day. Temperatures well above the average for the time of year. 15, 16, 18, 19, perhaps across the south. It is a cooler day across East Anglia and the Kent coast, with the breeze picking up a little bit here. That breeze strengthening further along the south coast overnight. We'll keep some patchy rain over the Northern Isles overnight, but otherwise it's dry and clear. It will turn pretty cold pretty quickly if you're heading out this evening. Bear that in mind. By dawn, temperatures down, even in urban areas, pretty close to freezing, and certainly in the countryside, a touch of frost to start the weekend. Could be a bit of mist and fog around here and there as well on Saturday morning, and some coast may be a little misty at times this weekend, but generally it is a sunny Saturday. Still some thicker cloud close to Shetland, a little bit of drizzle here and there, a bit of a breeze along the south coast, but not as windy as last weekend. And the sun is getting stronger and stronger now, so lifting those temperatures again by the afternoon widely into the mid to high teens. Some coast will be a little bit cooler. And again, if you're heading out on Saturday night, temperatures will drop sharply. Another chilly start on Sunday, but another fine, bright day, dry with plenty of sunny spells and quite warm once more by Sunday afternoon. Goodbye.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everyone. It's 10:25. This is To The Point with me, Patrick, Christys and I, Falarian Man on GB News. And we are live on your TV, online and radio. Can I just say quickly as well, in the break I was confronted by one of our producers and there's some new Kim Jong-un video that's dropped. And hopefully we're going to be showing you that later. You're not going to want to miss that.
Yes. Well, in other news, Chancellor Rishi Sunak is defending his spring statement after being accused of not going far enough to help families facing poverty due to the rising cost of living.
Yes, well, on Wednesday, the Chancellor announced a 5p cut in fuel duty and a cut in income tax from 2024. But some say these measures do not go far enough.
Yes, Turn to Us, a national poverty charity, says it doesn't go far enough in protecting people from a living standard catastrophe. Thomas Lucen is a spokesperson from Turn to Us and joins us now to give us more detail. Thank you, Thomas, for joining us this morning. I mean, what is your reaction to the Chancellor's spring statement?
There are some glimmers of hope in it. So there's an additional £500 million chunk that goes to the Household Support Fund, which is an opportunity for councils to make emergency payments to families in financial crisis. But the fact that benefits are not increasing in line with inflation is going to be a huge real cut to people's incomes. And this is on a universal credit payment that has already had a £20 a week cut. That's £1,000 a year. And the canary is already dead in the mine. And that's why there are so many of us going to food banks and people having to choose between heating and food for their families. It's a problem. It's a really serious problem, and he hasn't addressed it.
OK, I mean, I suppose a lot of people would say, well, there isn't a magic money tree. We're not made of money. We've got a fuel crisis, an energy crisis. We've obviously just come out of the coronavirus crisis. Furlough cost us something like 70 billion quid and this, that and the other. You know, where's all this money coming from?
Well, do we think it's fair that people have to choose between food and heating? Do we think it's fair that people are having to go to food banks in one of the richest countries in the world? Do we think that's fair? That's the main question we have to answer. And if we want to be able to rebuild an economy, how can you do that when a fifth of us are living in poverty and a fifth of us are struggling to make ends meet and get food on the table? That is not the frame of mind you need to be able to find a new job and to be able to contribute to a rebuilding economy. So it feels like a shot in the foot, frankly.
You must feel very politically isolated at the moment because, weirdly, Labour didn't want tax increases, did they? The Tories obviously did. They've kind of swapped on that one. So presumably there's no one out there for you at the minute.
Well, we're not a political charity. What we're focused on is the needs of people who don't have enough to live on. That's our main focus. There's something else to mention, which is we have a benefits calculator that people can use, and you can find it on our website, turntous.org.uk. And there are millions of people, well, there's thousands of people who aren't claiming the benefits for which they're eligible. £14.5 billion worth of benefits went unclaimed last year, mostly because people feel ashamed about claiming benefits, because we've got this kind of idea that in the UK you should be ashamed if you're claiming benefits, when in fact claiming benefits is the way back to being able to contribute to the economy. And furthermore, there are a whole bunch of people who won't ever be able to work, and people with disabilities or people who haven't got enough money to pay for childcare, so single mums in particular. Do we really want to live in a society where we're not supporting children to be able to have the best start in life? And we know that poverty in childhood is a good indicator of poverty in later life as well. So come to our website, look at our benefits calculator, and we also have a grants search tool where you can find out if there are any grants for which you're eligible as well. So come to our website.
And Thomas, I guess, what specific things would you have liked to see in the spring statement? I mean, I think many of our viewers would completely agree with you that perhaps it didn't go far enough, and that we have a cost of living crisis right now that is really, really squeezing ordinary people. But what specifics do you think could have really helped right now?
I think the first thing is to keep the increases in our benefits in line with inflation. Our benefits haven't had any increases in line with inflation for a long time. I know we're getting 3.5% increase in the spring statement, but with inflation likely to reach 8% by the summer or by the end of the year, that is a crippling blow. So the main thing would have been to have seen that increase.
Fair enough. Good stuff, Thomas. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck, obviously, and good luck to all of those people that you help as well. Thomas Lawson now, of course, a spokesperson for Turn to Us, and he did give out the website there as well. It's Turn, TURN, and then the number 2 Us if you obviously want to get involved with them. Anyway, right, coming. Oh no, we're going to go to some views, shall we? Shall we do views? We'll do views. Yes. Okay. Right. Well, let's go. Let's see who's been saying what. Then the spring statement did nothing to alleviate the upcoming devastating hit to people's expenditures and the poorer end of society. That's from Ken.
No, in all honesty, it was shocking. And I think one of the things that I've really realised, I mean, I was very critical of, for example, the Cameron-Clegg government, but it really puts into perspective now actually how much that they did when you look at how little this government has done in just a few years. I mean, we obviously had the vote for Brexit, but we had, the bedroom tax, the mansion tax, getting loads of people out, taking them out of stamp duty. This is just off my head instantly. Yeah, okay. The tuition fees increase. There were quite a lot of key policies that really defined that government. But I can't, other than getting Brexit done, which they haven't really realised any of the possibilities of Brexit, I can't really name a specific thing that's actually helped ordinary people in this last few years. Whereas under the Cameron-Clegg government, which many people are very critical.
The vaccine rollout helped.
Well, I mean, that was obviously something that was implemented across the world. I mean, specifically to help people's financial situation. I can't really name much.
Yeah, I suppose. I hear what you're saying, don't get me wrong. I just wonder whether or not some people go, well, actually, that's a good thing in a sense because the government are staying out of our lives.
No. I think that there's a difference between that. That's the whole ideology if you want to be kind of free market and not get involved. But this has just been a lack of political will.
Do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that's
What would you have liked to have seen them do?
Well, I mean, for example, levelling up. Let's actually.
Well, yeah, nothing has happened there.
Yeah, exactly. The channel was a very big thing. Nothing's happened there. Transport infrastructure, massive investment in education, dealing with the attack on our history, culture, and heritage that's going on across the institutions. I mean, these are just a few things.
I'd like to see them take a more firm stance on some of things like trans sports, etc.
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
I'd like to see a clear
line
in that drawn there, because I think it seems to me anyway, just on some of the points you're saying there, that
nuclear, shale gas. I'd like to see that. These are just so many things that are just open goals. Whilst
it's pretty clear for me anyway what I strongly suspect. A lot of members of that government, a lot of members of that particular party think about various issues, not necessarily always maybe acted in that way, I suppose. Yeah. There we go. Right, OK. Well, we are going to go to the news very, very shortly, but coming up, a new law means drivers could be fined up to £200 for using their phones at the wheel. But yes, before that, it's time for this morning's news.
Thank you, Patrick. It's 10:32. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Ukraine's president has told the European Union it acted too late to stop the Russian invasion by failing to impose sanctions and to block the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline earlier. Volodymyr Zelensky said he was grateful to the EU for the steps they've taken, but urged the Union not to be late in accepting Ukraine's membership. President Joe Biden has announced a joint game plan between the US and the EU that will reduce Europe's dependency on Russian energy. As part of the plan, the US will provide the EU with at least 15 billion additional cubic meters of liquefied natural gas by the end of the year. The Transport Secretary has called on the P&O Ferries boss to resign after he sacked 800 workers without notice, replacing them with cheaper agency staff. Grant Shapps told GB News CEO Peter Hebblethwaite's actions were unacceptable, adding that he'll change the law so the company has to pay minimum wage. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says the Taliban's decision to shut school doors to girls in Afghanistan is unjustifiable. The foreign ministers of the US, Canada, France, Italy, Norway and the High Representative of the European Union have also condemned the decision. And COVID restrictions in Wales are set to be relaxed further from Monday. The legal requirement to wear face coverings in shops and on public transport will end, as well as the need to self-isolate. Masks will still be required in health and care settings, and businesses must continue to carry out COVID-19 risk assessments. TV online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. It's back to Patrick and Anaya with To The Point in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Morning, it's very nearly 10:37. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, and Anaya man on GB News, live on your TV, online and radio.
Yes, Prince William and Kate are concluding their Royal Caribbean tour with a 2-day visit to the Bahamas. Prime Minister Philip Davies welcomed the couple today and conveyed a message of congratulations to the Queen for her Platinum Jubilee.
I didn't realise Esther McVeigh's partner was the Prime Minister's rate. Anyway, for more, we're joined now by former royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray. Charles, thank you very much. Good morning to you. This tour hasn't all been plain sailing, has it, for the Royals?
Good morning, Patrick. No, it hasn't. But let's get it into perspective. There are certain reasons as to why it's not going terribly well in Jamaica, because they want to ditch the Queen as head of state, which is what they're perfectly entitled to do. And I suspect that there are many people, including their Prime Minister, who are using the royal tour to further that aim. The little protest in Belize, I think, was a storm in a teacup. This was a little village that objected to them landing their helicopter on a football field in a row over, land that adjoins their land. But they just moved on to somewhere else. That was quite fine. I mean, I think the Royal Tour was, what it'll be remembered for is the people they met. It'll be remembered for the fact that they swam with sharks, which was fantastic pictures. We've never seen that before, and it makes a change from certain members of the royal family actually dealing with sharks. So I think it was a good, successful tour.
Do you think that William and Kate will be too bothered about what the Jamaican Prime Minister had to say, or do you think that it would have just washed over them?
I wouldn't say bothered. I mean, they take on board, people are entitled to have their points of view, but, the Prime Minister of Jamaica has got, a cause. They're celebrating 60 years of independence this year, but he wants to remove the Queen as head of state. Again, that is a matter for Jamaica, and it happened in Bermuda last year, but they're still linked with the Commonwealth. Be interesting to see if Jamaica still have links with the Commonwealth when and if that happens. But there is a sizable voice of opposition there who still want the Queen to be their head of state.
Yeah, well, long may that last, hopefully. But it's interesting, isn't it, really? Because William and Kate there, of course, going around and bringing what looks like they're bringing joy, showing that they've got a real human side to them, actually. Now, look, I know this is potentially a little bit off topic, Charles. I hope you don't mind. Just wondered, how's the Queen getting on?
Well, as far as we're aware, I saw a picture this morning in one of the papers of the Queen standing, and she's got one of those sort of like, almost like a shepherd's crook that she's holding on to, but she's got this huge smile on her face. And I think people, her aides are, that's, I think that, for radio listeners, they're showing a picture of that Queen there, great smile on her face. And I think they're going to make that decision as to whether she attends this memorial service for Prince Philip later, which is on Tuesday. I mean, it'd have to take a stack of wild horses to stop her from turning up there, to be perfectly honest. And they're pacing her, quite well, and hopefully she will be there.
No, absolutely. And William and Kate are now in the Bahamas. Is that right?
They are. They've just arrived in the Bahamas, so that's the last end of this three country tour. So I look forward to seeing more nice pictures. I mean, when you see Catherine and she's got that fantastic, infectious laughter all around, all the people in these three countries who have met the royals will go away and they will have enjoyed themselves and enjoyed the visit.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what I was going to say, but, I know they do work hard over there. They've got all the engagements, but I think I wouldn't mind a royal tour of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the
Absolutely.
I'd like
Charles,
to see you watching that one, Patrick.
I'm going to have to find a distant relative or something that's, a member of the royal family and launch a military coup or something. But anyway, thank you very much for royal correspondent at The Sun, Charles Ray, the institution himself. We'll be speaking to you very soon, no doubt, Charles. Thank you, as always.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick, what do you think about some of these countries?
Great. No, I'm joking.
no longer having a constitutional monarchy? I mean, do you think that it's a shame, or is this kind of natural move towards greater self-determination?
I think it's a natural move towards greater self-determination, and I think especially since Britain voted for Brexit, we have clearly demonstrated a personal desire for self-determination.
But it is a constitutional monarchy. They are independent. They're not actually colonies in any way. So it's just almost a kind of governmental symbolic role.
I personally would rather that this stayed as it was, right? Personally,
why is that? Is it a bit of a nostalgia?
I think really, I think a bit of nostalgia. I do also think there's more of an element of soft power there on the global stage.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much that would realistically change because we've got such a shared history now, or for various different reasons, of course. So I would probably rather it stayed the same personally, but I do one bit of me does wonder whether or not some of these places should be careful what they wish for, in a sense, whether or not maybe that actually they would miss the prestige of the royal family. I don't know, maybe not. I suppose they'd have to have a referendum on it, one would have thought. I don't know. So.
I mean, I would hope that they would do it democratically.
Yeah.
And I think, if that's what they want to do, fine. I think it's, generally speaking, more of a kind of symbolic role. But I can see why, it's been decades since they were, formerly part of the British Empire, and it does seem like a move towards, greater self-determination. And I think that's fine. But I do think, when the Queen, dies at some point, very sad when that happens, I think it will be a very significant moment for the Commonwealth. And I think that many of them are making moves as they realise that this is something that is becoming much closer.
Yeah, I think quite possibly spot on as always now. Well, right, OK, so starting from today, drivers will be banned from using their mobile phones while driving.
Yeah, you kind of thought that was already the...
I thought this was already a thing, but anyway, yeah, we'll explain what's new about it.
Yes, those who break this rule will be fined £200 and will get 6 points on their driving licence. The new law aims to stop drivers using their phone to take pictures, change their music and play games whilst driving. Our reporter, Alice Porter, is in her car for us this morning to explain the rules to us. Thank you for joining us this morning, Alice. I mean, for most people, they would have already thought that this was illegal. What's changed?
I have to say, I completely agree. When I first heard about this story yesterday, I just thought, well, I thought it was already illegal, but maybe we're just goody two-shoes on this programme. I'm not sure. But actually, if you go back to 2006, when they brought in the law when it came to driving using your phone, it was actually only that you weren't able to use your phone whilst you were texting or calling or communicating. And there's been this loophole, which means that you can use your phone to do, sort of watch videos, scroll on social media, which kind of seems extraordinary, really. But as of today, that loophole has been closed. You can only use your phone for calling the emergency services. So if there was an accident, you need to call 999. So that's still allowed. But in terms of your phone, the only way you can use it is if you're using it for a sat-nav, but it has to be in, excuse my prop, a kind of cradle. So you'd have to have it here, and you can't touch it. Once it's going, you can't touch it at all. So that's one of the big changes, really, that's coming into place from today.
Okay. And also, what's the penalty if people do get caught?
Well, you could get a fine of up to £1,000 and 6 points on your licence, which I think could be quite a deterrent for a lot of people. And it's worth sort of saying, if anyone's listening to this and thinking, gosh, that seems a little bit strict, well, it's worth pointing out, I mean, figures from the Department for Transport back in 2020 showed that 17 people died as a result of deaths because people were using their phones while driving, and there were 114 serious injuries as well. So it's a very serious issue.
Yeah, no, indeed. And on that point of safety there, you mentioned there about the deaths and everything. So presumably this will really make our roads safer.
In theory, yes. I think it's going to be quite difficult to enforce, though, in some ways. I mean, the RSC, they've been wanting the government to bring in these cameras that have sort of sensors where they can detect people using their phones. They have them in operation in a number of other countries. So I think there will be a little bit of an enforcement issue. But I think that £1,000 fine, points on your licence, that still will be quite a large deterrent to a lot of people, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Alice. Our reporter, Alice Porter there, inside her car, giving you the latest on this change of rules when it comes to phones behind the wheel. And actually, it is interesting because we were saying, weren't we? We thought that those rules already existed, for example. But now as well, look, I probably shouldn't say this on the telly, really, but I don't have a cradle for my sat nav, right? So I have this habit of like I'll just kind of put the phone.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I get retrospectively.
I mean, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't
now.
actually have a licence.
You don't actually have a licence?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's even more illegal when you drive it. Right, Wales are one step closer to qualifying for the World Cup for the first time since 1958. Yeah. Wales will now have to beat either Scotland or Ukraine in order to qualify for the World Cup in Qatar later this year. Presumably, if Wales draw Ukraine, they're just going to have to let them win.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Sorry, Wales.
Joining us now from Cardiff is our world reporter, Lily Lewitson. Give us the latest, please, Lily.
Yes, good morning, guys. Wales fans will have particularly sore heads after the squad's win here at the Cardiff City Stadium last night. The squad are now just, as you said, one game away from making history in qualifying for their first World Cup since 1958. Now, last night's win against Austria was, of course, due to Wales captain Gareth Bale, who secured 2 excellent goals in last night's game, which saw them secure that 2-1 win against Austria in their playoff semi. semi-final. Now, the atmosphere was absolutely electric. However, there was that sweep of anxiety across the stadium and certainly in the pub where I was watching the game last night when a shot from Austria deflected off Wales's Ben Davies and rolled into the Wales net, leaving it with an own goal, which just left everybody completely on the edge of their seats. Now, Austria certainly used that advantage to take control of the second half, but an early goal in the second half from Gareth Bale and a really strong defence from Wales ensured that they held on to that 2-1 lead. Gareth Bale, however, in particular, received quite a bit of backlash from the Spanish press last night after the game. He didn't play for his club Real Madrid last Sunday due to a back injury, but he did manage to make it back to his home country of Wales for last night's game, and he was branded as a Welsh parasite by one member of the press after the game, with one paper in particular donning the sarcastic headline of "It doesn't hurt anymore" when he was pictured playing and training with the Welsh squad earlier on in the week. Now, in response to this backlash from the Spanish media, in a post-match interview, Gareth Bale said, "It's disgusting. They should be ashamed of themselves. I'm not fussed." End of. Now, as you say, Wales will now take on either Scotland or Ukraine in their final game before potentially qualifying for the World Cup. However, that game was meant to be played next Tuesday. It's been pushed on until June because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, so we will have to wait a little bit longer to see if the Welsh team will be making history.
Good stuff, Lily. Thank you very, very much. It's now whizzing us through what's been going on with the Welsh national team. Just one game away, potentially, now for their first World Cup finals in decades. They did incredibly well at the Euros a couple of Euros ago. I think they got to semi-finals, didn't they? And, yeah, fantastic. So good luck, Wales. Although, obviously, I suppose we also have to say good luck, Scotland, because they'll be playing potentially against them. But even better luck, ultimately, to Ukraine, because they could be drawn against them as well.
Yes.
Can you imagine? It's not great luck for the Welsh, that is it. If they play against Ukraine, these people have probably had to just come back from fighting a war and,
Oh, I guess it could just be a light relief.
It might be. Indeed.
Well, this is the story that you've been waiting for, Patrick.
New Kim Jong-un's just
give it
dropped.
Give it a go.
Yes, get in. Just when you thought Kim Jong-un had gone into hiding. Where is Kim? We've all been saying, gosh, Kim's been awfully quiet. Well, Kim Jong-un has gone Hollywood in a video marking a North Korean missile launch. Check this out. It's great.
Well, for those of you on radio, North Korean state television showed the supreme leader walking in slow motion in front of his giant missile in sunglasses and a black leather motorcycle jacket. Wow.
I feel so powerful.
Pretty impressive.
I feel I could
He's lost a lot of weight.
Launch a missile.
Did you notice? He has
lost a lot of weight, yeah. He has, yeah. No, he really has, actually. I mean... Well done, Kim, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, his BMI's down. Just for those of you, obviously, Oh, we've already said anyway what it was. But yeah, Kim Jong-un just...
Looking very macho there.
I mean, it's just hilarious. It's
leather jacket and glasses. I like it.
Leather jacket. He's got the shades on. Power man. Look at him.
That's a very big missile.
He's got a massive rocket behind him. He loves a big rocket, does Kim. And I tell you what, he does look well,
I love that it's slow motion as well. It's like
in slow motion.
James Bond type of...
I cannot get enough of that. I could watch that on repeat over and over and over again.
Yes.
So, yes, there we go. I mean, actually, Little Rocket Man has been quite quiet recently. I wonder if he's biding his time. He must be annoyed that Putin's stealing his thunder.
Yeah. Send us your views on his rocket.
Yeah, absolutely. Send us your views about Kim Jong-un's rockets. GB Views at gbnews.uk. Right, we're going to go into some of those views right now. We've got... I fully support helping genuine, needy Adults and children. This is from Half. And this is about the conversation we had earlier about the budget potentially not doing enough to help vulnerable, needy people, I suppose. But we can't help everybody. So there should be more scrutiny around how genuine some of these claims are. That's from Half.
Yes, Don says, Patrick is right. When a country wishes for a different head of state to our legally, judicial and stable, benevolent monarchy, they have to be careful what they wish for. I'm thinking in particular Zimbabwe and Robert Mugabe. Well,
there we are. There we go.
I mean, if you want self-determination, you have to have the right to also make the mistakes and learn from them. And that is part of actually being a sovereign nation, that you will get it wrong, likely sometimes, and you live with the consequences of those decisions on your own terms.
Absolutely. I agree completely. Marion's been in touch, still sticking on the old royal theme here. The best thing for the royal family to do is to never let those two social climbers, I imagine that's Harry and Meghan, back into the UK. In my opinion, Prince Harry and Meghan, yep, there we go, and their titles should be removed because those two, I feel, are encouraging issues there. And I do wonder whether or not, actually, William and Kate feel as though some people, for example, the Prime Minister of Jamaica there, felt more emboldened as a result of Meghan and Harry's decision to split from the royal family, dish some dirt on Oprah, cry into Oprah's bosom, whether or not they feel now more emboldened to say, actually, you know what, we want independence.
Well, I mean, she did make race-related allegations, and with Jamaica being a country that has a long history of kind of anti-racist struggles, they may feel a kind of obligation to take that particular stand. Well, Tessa, on the fine for holding your mobile phone, said it's absolutely ridiculous they're opposing £1,000 fine for using a mobile phone. Wow.
I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know how often people here would occasionally use a mobile phone while they drive. Of course, none of us never would ever do such a thing. Never even enter my head. I've been told it is very difficult to drive while you're on the phone, actually, and it is. You know, I can see that. Yes,
but
absolutely.
It's concentration. You need to be aware.
You got to be aware.
Yeah.
Are you learning to drive?
Yes, I am. I failed my first theory test, and then I got the date wrong. The second one. So I've got to book it a third time now. Brilliant.
I failed my first ever theory test, but I did one of the most embarrassing things. Well, it's not the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. That's a very long list. But I decided I'd pass. I refused to believe the result of the theory test, which I think says a lot about what 17-year-old Patrick was all about. And I went up to the counter and I'd got 50 out of 50 on the questions. Thank you very much. But I failed the hazard perception.
That's really weird, because my one's the opposite. Everyone seems to say that the hazard perception is the one that people find harder. That was the easier one for me.
Well, I'd never done it before, so I didn't know. So obviously you're supposed to, you know, you get played a scene, don't you, unfolding in front of you, a woman with a pram by the road or whatever, a car pulling out, and you've got to click when you notice that hazard, but I was clicking when it became a hazard. Anyway, I kicked off at the test centre and said, no, there must be some mistake. It turns out there wasn't any mistake, and now I'm not allowed back there.
Wow.
There we go.
Story of your life.
Story of my life. Keep all your thoughts coming into us on email, gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'll be back with more of today's top stories and, of course, plenty of your views. Also, by the way, sorry, just a cheeky little thing, we're going to be trying to get a bit later on. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion, aren't we, about it's the 1-year anniversary of the Batley Grammar School teacher being suspended, and potentially some interesting stuff about Save the Children as well. 750,000 quid they've decided to turn down in donations because it came from a fossil fuels company. Apparently those children don't need saving anymore, do they? Stay tuned.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. Today, just like every other day this week, is dry for most, with sunny skies up and down the country, and it will feel warm in that sunshine with light winds under this area of high pressure, which is now centred across the UK. So very little airflow around that high. That means that under the sun, it will feel warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. There is some cloud to speak of, mainly for Shetland, where a few outbreaks of rain are possible through the afternoon, light rain generally, and some patchy cloud affecting the coasts of Western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. 1 or 2 clouds bubbling up elsewhere, but by and large it's essentially a sunny afternoon and temperatures doing well as well. 17, 18, perhaps 19 or 20 Celsius in some of the warmer spots. Now into the evening and clearing skies for most, and under those clear skies 1 or 2 mist and fog patches will form here and there, but for the vast majority it stays clear. Now for the Northern Isles we'll see that lingering cloud lowering to give some fog and some drizzle in places. In towns and cities, temperatures holding up, but in rural parts, they're dipping close to, if not just below freezing. So a fresh start to the weekend, but a beautiful start once again. Bright blue skies for the vast majority. Barely a cloud in the sky for many away from the far north of Scotland, that is. And it will stay dry throughout Saturday, throughout Sunday as well. I think on Saturday night and into Sunday, there'll be a bit more cloud coming along. But on Saturday afternoon, those temperatures rising up to the mid to high teens once again, fairly widely under that sunshine. Now out in the North Sea, you can see some low cloud. That's going to start to creep closer to the east coast of the UK on Saturday night, perhaps giving a misty, foggy start for some on Sunday and bringing some cloud in for eastern parts of the country during the daytime, but it will stay dry.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
That you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everyone. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick, Christys Mercy for allowing him man on your TV, radio and online. We've got another hour for you, jam-packed full of massive discussion and big guests as well. And, of course, your views.
Yes, make sure you get in touch with your views. As usual, GB Views at gbnews.uk. We'll be getting through those all throughout the show. But first, it's the latest news.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Ukrainian president's told the European Union it acted too late to stop the Russian invasion by failing to impose sanctions and blocking the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline earlier. Volodymyr Zelensky said he was grateful to the EU for the steps they've taken, but urged the Union to act swiftly in accepting Ukraine's membership. In the video address, President Zelensky said he's now delivered speeches to NATO, the G7 and the EU in an attempt to achieve peace.
The country must work towards peace, move forward. With each day of our defence, we are bringing the peace we need so much closer. We are bringing victory closer.
Volodymyr Zelensky there. It's reported 300 people were killed in the airstrike that hit a theatre in the city of Mariupol last week. A Ukrainian news agency reports women, children and elderly people were among the hundreds seeking shelter in the building. The UN Refugee Agency says around 3.7 million people have fled Ukraine since the conflict began. US President Joe Biden has announced a joint game plan with the EU to reduce Europe's dependency on Russian energy. The US will provide the EU with at least 15 billion additional cubic metres of liquefied natural gas by the end of the year. During a press conference in Brussels, he said the EU shouldn't be subsidising Putin's brutal attack on Ukraine.
I know that eliminating Russian gas will have costs for Europe, but it's not only the right thing to do from a moral standpoint, it's going to put us on a much stronger strategic footing.
President Biden speaking there. North Korea's state news agency says Kim Jong-un ordered the launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile because of the long-standing confrontation with the US. New footage shows the country's leader personally overseeing the missile takeoff. This is the first full test of this kind of long-range missile by North Korea since 2017. China has urged all sides to exercise restraint regarding the test. The Transport Secretary says the P&O Ferries boss should resign after sacking 800 workers without notice, replacing them with cheaper agency staff. CEO Peter Hebblethwaite admitted the new crews are being paid below the UK's minimum wage on international routes, but he insists it is legal. Grant Shapps told GB News his actions were unacceptable, adding that he'll change the law so that the company must pay minimum wage.
It was brazen, breathtaking, arrogant, as he sat there and told Parliament, we decided it would be better to break the law. We are going to make it absolutely clear that is unacceptable. They are going to need to do a U-turn because I'm going to come forward next week with a package of measures to Parliament, which will require ships that sail from here to be on the regular route, applying the regular route, to be paying the minimum wage.
Grant Shapps speaking to us earlier. The government's announcing a tenfold increase in public electric car charging points. The Department for Transport's investing £500 million to boost the UK's 30,000 charge points to 300,000 by 2030. That will also be the year when the sale of new petrol and diesel cars and vans will be banned in the UK. The number of elderly people admitted to hospital with coronavirus in England has jumped to its highest level in more than a year. Last week, the number of hospitalised patients over the age of 85 was 178 per 100,000. That's up by 137 on the previous week. In Wales, meanwhile, COVID restrictions are set to be relaxed further from Monday. The legal requirement to wear face coverings in shops and on public transport will end, as will the need to self-isolate. Masks will still be required in health and care settings, and businesses must continue to carry out COVID-19 risk assessments. And the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are visiting the Bahamas as they begin their final leg of their Caribbean tour. The Bahamian Prime Minister acknowledged the Queen's Jubilee, saying we'll never see a reign like hers again. They face strong criticism from campaigners throughout the tour, seeking reparations from the monarchy for its role in the slave trade. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now, though, let's return to Patrick and Anaya with To The Point.
Good morning, this is To The Point on GB News with me, Anaya Iman and Patrick Christys on your TV, radio and online. We've got a great show lined up for your final hour, so here's what's on the menu.
Now, as NATO leaders meet in Brussels to coordinate their response to Russian aggression, we'll be looking at the human side of the conflict. We're joined by someone aiming to help those suffering in Ukraine.
Yes, and is anything being done to tackle the spiralling cost of childcare? 62% of parents of young children say they're spending the same or more on childcare than on rent or mortgage. We'll be joined by the campaign group behind the report.
Yes, now under the Taliban rule, girls over the age of 11 are not allowed to return to school in Afghanistan. We're joined by a female former Afghan politician and minister to talk about this very issue.
Yes, we have all of that coming up and much more across the programme, so make sure you get in touch. As usual, gbnews@gbnews.uk. Day 30 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and NATO, G7 and EU leaders have held an emergency meeting in Brussels to reinforce their support for Ukraine and discuss further measures against Moscow.
Well, US President Joe Biden and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen have just held a press conference where they unveiled measures to wean Europe off Russian energy imports. Well, joining us now.
We're coming together to reduce Europe's dependence on Russian energy. Putin has issued Russia's energy resources to coerce and manipulate its neighbors. That's how he's used it. He's used the profits to drive his war machine. Today, we've agreed on a joint game plan toward that goal, while accelerating our progress toward a secure, clean energy future. This initiative focuses on two core issues. One, helping Europe reduce its dependency on Russian gas as quickly as possible. And secondly, reducing Europe's demand for gas overall.
The transatlantic partnership stands stronger and more united than ever. And we are determined to stand up against Russia's brutal war. This war will be a strategic failure for Putin. Our cooperation on the 4 successive waves of sanctions against Russia has been extraordinary and exceptional. The sanctions are now working their way deep into the Russian system, draining Putin's resources to finance this atrocious war. Until now, around 3.5 million people have left Ukraine, half of them children. Every second refugee is a child. And the numbers will keep rising. So, together, we are mobilizing massive resources to support those displaced by the conflict, be it in Ukraine or in the neighbouring countries.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it, really? Because they're discussing how to dig their way out of one of the largest strategic errors that Europe has ever seen, i.e. building so much of a reliance on Vladimir Putin's Russia for gas. And you've got one man there who looks like he doesn't know what day of the week it is, and a woman stood next to him there who, when she was in charge of her own defence in Germany, made them train with broomsticks because they didn't have enough guns. So I imagine Vladimir Putin is now taking what they have to say very seriously.
Yeah, and I think it was quite noticeable when he said that not just weaning Europe off of Russian gas, but also gas more broadly. And I think even in this crisis, they're still arguing for measures that will perhaps potentially cause another energy crisis down the line, i.e. removing gas. And I think until we have sufficient renewable energy in the form of wind and solar, we are going to have to rely on gas for a very long time, likely oil and coal. And it's just a reality that needs to be confronted without this pandering that I think constantly goes on.
I agree completely. Anyway, right, joining us now is Thomas Jones and his wife, both British expats, and they were in Ukraine last month as the invasion began. They join us now. Thank you very, very much. It's good to see you. The last time we spoke, I mean, you were still over there. And how are you feeling now you're back in Blighty?
We're still reeling, you know. This whole thing has been an ordeal, and it's an ordeal not just for us, but for other people, you know, trying to get away and move out of Ukraine. I mean, I think my wife can say pretty much the same thing.
OK, and just explain a little bit about how you got out in the end and your routes back to Britain.
Well, our route was, you know, pretty difficult from the get-go. Then after the Polish border, it was quite easy. The Polish border was the strenuous part, not just because we had to sit in a queue for 36 hours, just watching all the people travelling across the border on foot, in buses, people fighting, people panicking, children crying, men taking their wives and children to the border and then having to turn back. I think for both of us, that was quite hard to see.
Absolutely, absolutely. And are you still hearing anything back from over there? As the situation obviously is pretty desperate. Where, just remind me again, sorry, where you're actually based. Was it Lviv?
Yes, we're from Lviv. Irina, my wife, talks to her mother almost every day. She's been calling, you know, every day just to check in. She did call last weekend when the bombs were dropped in Yavoriv. That's 50 kilometers from Lviv, and her mother did say that she'd heard the explosions and did, you know, let us know that she was okay.
Do you mind me asking, Irina, how you feel now? Obviously, your mother's over there and everything that's been going on over there. How do you actually feel?
Yeah, very worried about people who still in Ukraine, and also I'm worried about people who become a refugee, because it's around 4 million people now leaving country, and I want to say that people not happy to leave country. We love Ukraine, we won't be there, but many people lost already their houses, and I just ask about. I want to say many, like a lot. Thank you for everyone who opened the door for Ukrainian. Poland, our sister and brother, it's incredible how they're helping now. It's around 2 million people already in Poland. So it's big things you're doing for us. Thank you very much. But also, I want to ask, be patient with Ukrainian, because mostly it's women and children, and they are probably in stress, and many of them lost everything what they have. So we are all different, but I'm Ukrainian, my husband British, we love each other, we can live together. So just we should be united right now, whole world. And thank you very much for whole world for helping Ukraine right now. But the one thing I want to say more about Mariupol, please just search the city. It's criminal and genocide right now going in the city. It's like Leningrad in the Second World. So just we need to do more, even more every day. Whole world needs to do more than they're doing right now. More equipment, more weapons, more sanctions. It's just what I want to ask.
Thank you. And also to both of you, I mean, what have you made of the UK response in relation to refugees so far? There was a bit of back and forth in the early days, and they opened up this new scheme to allow ordinary people to house refugees in their home, and about more than 150,000 British households have signed up. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that Britain should have followed suit in relation to Poland and other countries in Europe in terms of effectively an open door policy, or do you think they've taken the right approach?
The approach they've taken, is a very nice gesture, but once again, it's hard to navigate through the whole bureaucratic system of doing so. I've kind of been helping people in Ukraine that have, expressed the desire to maybe come to England and to be sponsored by, English people. The whole process online, apparently, I don't know because I haven't done it, but it's just another kind of hurdle that people have to go through. Is England doing the right thing? Yes, it is. But I think there's kind of restrictions. Also, we have to worry about people trying to get through the cracks. People from Crimea that were annexed, or people that are trying to profit from the situation have been kind of found out that they're trying to get to England on false pretenses, which I think is disgusting. But when there's a war, there's always somebody trying to ride on the back of the misery of other people. Unfortunate. But I'd say that the British public response has been really great. So if you look at forums, you look at websites, you can see that people are really opening their hearts, their houses, and trying to do what they can for the people of Ukraine, which is amazing.
No, indeed. Well, look, good luck to your families that are remaining over there. Good luck, obviously, to all of your friends that are out there as well. And we really do appreciate you taking the time for us. And just to say, send our deepest condolences, because, clearly it's a terrible thing what's going on. You mentioned there, Irina, that a lot of people are in a state of shock. A lot of people are in well, goodness only knows what it must feel like. So, we're wishing you all the best. All right, thank you very much, both of you. Thomas Jones there and Irina as well, who've managed to make it back to the UK from Lviv in Ukraine via Poland and goodness knows where else as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really does remind you that you can be living a completely normal life and something can happen, or events can happen that completely turn your life on your head. And I think that the Ukraine crisis really reveals to us that war is a reality in the here and now, and that's something that we have to really get our heads around.
Absolutely, and just watching some of the videos of Mariupol as well, especially anyway, it appears anyway, just basically rubble, and I think the idea that must be singularly targeting military targets doesn't seem to ring true.
Yeah, and I mean, you just see, some of the pictures, it just makes you think this could be in Syria, this could be in Iraq. I mean, when you just see rubble and destruction, it does really hark back to just the images of war across the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyway, coming up, are we taking the cost of childcare seriously? A new survey says that new parents are spending nearly as much on childcare as they do on their mortgages. We'll be speaking to one of the organisations behind the survey after your Friday forecast.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. Today, just like every other day this week, is dry for most, with sunny skies up and down the country, and it will feel warm in that sunshine with light winds under this area of high pressure, which is now centred across the UK. So very little airflow around that high. That means that under the sun, it will feel warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. There is some cloud to speak of, mainly for Shetland, where a few outbreaks of rain are possible through the afternoon, light rain generally, and some patchy cloud affecting the coasts of Western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. One or two clouds bubbling up elsewhere, but by and large it's essentially a sunny afternoon and temperatures doing well as well. 17, 18, perhaps 19 or 20 Celsius in some of the warmer spots. Now into the evening and clearing skies for most, and under those clear skies, one or two mist and fog patches will form here and there, but for the vast majority it stays clear. Now for the Northern Isles, we'll see that lingering cloud lowering to give some fog and some drizzle in places. In towns and cities, temperatures holding up, but in rural parts, they're dipping close to, if not just below freezing. So a fresh start to the weekend, but a beautiful start once again. Bright blue skies for the vast majority. Barely a cloud in the sky for many away from the far north of Scotland, that is. And it will stay dry throughout Saturday, throughout Sunday as well. I think on Saturday night and into Sunday, there'll be a bit more cloud coming along. But on Saturday afternoon, those temperatures rising up to the mid to high teens once again, fairly widely under that sunshine. Now out in the North Sea, you can see some low cloud. That's going to start to creep closer to the east coast of the UK on Saturday night, perhaps giving a misty, foggy start for some on Sunday and bringing some cloud in for eastern parts of the country during the daytime, but it will stay dry.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis, and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here. Joe Biden walking out. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
Join me, Gloria De Piero, Monday to Thursday at noon for The Briefing. We go to the parts of Parliament that you won't see elsewhere. Plus, there's exclusive interviews with MPs from all parties.
But quite often, they paper over the real truth. Why does a working class lad like you join the Tories?
That's a good question.
Don't miss it, Monday to Thursdays at noon on GB News.
Morning, everyone. It's about to go 11:22. This is To The Point with me, Patrick, Christys Mercy Muroki on GB News Live, of course, on your TV, radio and online this morning.
Yes, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps says the actions of P&O Ferries boss were brazen and unacceptable. Speaking to Breakfast earlier, Mr Shapps said he will recommend the company makes a U-turn in a package of new measures.
What they said to me was that the trading was very, very tough. Because of coronavirus, of course, at the time. They'd taken millions in furlough money to keep their staff employed. And so we had a general discussion about that. And actually, just to put this beyond doubt, I'm ensuring that the official note of the meeting is sent straight to the Transport Select Committee. In fact, it's already gone there, so the record will show that that's not right. Look, what this company did, by the boss of P&O's own admission, was deliberately went out to deceive us and break the law. I mean, he actually says it himself. It was brazen, breathtaking, arrogant, as he sat there and told Parliament, we decided it would be better to break the law. We are going to make it absolutely clear that is unacceptable not to tell workers, not to consult, not to tell ministers, and to go ahead and do it is unacceptable. We're going to change the law. They are going to need to do a U-turn because I'm going to come forward next week with a package of measures to Parliament, which will require ships that sail from here to be on the regular route, applying the regular route, to be paying the minimum wage. It can't be right that somebody on shore side is paid the minimum wage, but because they're in our territorial waters, suddenly they don't need to pay the minimum wage. They know that, we know that, and we're going to force them to U-turn.
Yeah, so I was live on air yesterday when the P&O CEO was being grilled by this.
I watched it, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And I thought it was absolutely fascinating because part of me thinks, hang on a minute, this is a guy who's the CEO of a company. If it really was the reality that that company was going to go bust unless it, sacked staff or whatever, and they are paying them some form of compensation, and then on top of that, I suppose, it's just a business, but, I mean,
it's frankly grotesque, revolting, and embarrassing for them. But what I would say, though, the only, not saving grace to them, because I don't think that they deserve any, their company, but what I would say is that what did people expect in relation to the impact of the pandemic?
Yeah.
And that's my only thoughts, that I do worry if the government and politicians who have clamoured for longer, harder, stronger lockdowns are somehow pretending as if there was going to be no economic impact.
Exactly.
And I think the way that they treated their employees, frankly, is unacceptable and has nothing to do with the pandemic. They chose to act in ways that they even admit broke the law.
Well, yes.
That is completely unacceptable. Yeah. But I think there is a question to be had about the consequences of lockdown and the economic impacts on ordinary people that we are going to face, are facing, and may well get worse.
No, I agree. And I think as well, there were some really interesting points with the CEO yesterday, where he said that they didn't really believe that the unions would accept any of the situations they were going to put to them, so they just didn't bother to inform them, essentially. So that's already a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? Yeah. He's on 300 grand a year basic. He's got 2 performance-related options for his pay to go up.
And he said if he would make the decision again. He said that flat out yesterday.
But what's the option, though? Sorry to interrupt, but while we're on this, what is the option then? Because let's say that Grant Shapps there, who we just heard from a little while ago then, says, well, OK, I want them to U-turn. Well, then the company goes out of business, apparently.
Yeah, I would like the government to look at policies that make sure that people are protected by the impacts and consequences of the lockdown.
Yeah.
And I think that, the P&O is one situation, but that doesn't necessarily mitigate against perhaps the other thousands of job losses that may well come in other companies as a result.
Well, this is it. This is it, very much so. Anyway, right, well, we're just going to move away from that now. 62% of parents of young children are now spending the same or more on childcare than their rent or mortgage. That's shocking, that really,
yes, that's according to Mumsnet and Pregnant Then Screwed, 2 leading organisations for mothers in the UK, interesting name, highlighting the financial challenges facing new parents. Jolie Burley, the CEO and founder of Pregnant Then Screwed, joins us now. Thank you so much for joining me. I mean, I guess the title of the organisation really says it, that parents today, some of them at least, are screwed.
Yeah, I mean, the title of the campaign is purposefully provocative, and it is because we have such systems as the childcare system that are forcing mothers out of work. I mean, who can afford to be paying the same amount in childcare as they are their rent or their mortgage? And what we found from the survey is that 1 in 4 families are having to skip meals or forego heating and fuel to be able to afford this. We have the second most expensive childcare system in the world, and it is forcing families out of work and into poverty.
Of course, I also would now like to take my opportunity to congratulate you on a fantastic name of an organisation. Fantastic stuff. Right. But clearly now this is a massive issue. Now, rents are spiralling, so clearly the cost of childcare must be as well if it's now in line with that. Do you think this is one of the reasons why actually people are waiting longer and longer to have children, or potentially not having them at all?
I mean, it absolutely is. Our survey demonstrated that it was 75% of families, 75% of people who don't have children said that childcare costs were the key reason why they've decided not to have kids. So all of this is showing us that by not investing in childcare, it's really bad for the economy. And time again, research has shown that if you invest in childcare, it is exactly that. It's an investment. The Women's Budget Group found that an investment in childcare creates almost 3 times as many jobs as the same investment in construction. A study that was done in Australia found that for every $1 you invest in childcare, you get $3 back. And it's not as if this would be something pioneering for the UK, because pretty much every other country is already doing this. Canada have just committed to invest $30 billion in their childcare sector to ensure that childcare is no more than $6 a day. Parents in this country are paying upwards of £100 a day. And the reason why Canada have done this is not out of the goodness of their hearts or for moral or ethical reasons. They've done it because they've demonstrated it is good for the economy. It is good for children. It is good for families. And the government keeps ignoring this issue. It didn't appear once in the spring budget statement. It was completely not there in the Levelling Up white paper that they produced. And we've been campaigning the last year for an independent review of the childcare sector so we can understand why it's all going so horribly wrong. And that campaign was rejected on International Women's Day. So what does the government mean when it talks about investing in hard-working families? Because families don't work without childcare.
And just finally, I mean, sometimes, I mean, what do you think about some of the debates when it comes to women's issues and feminist issues? I think oftentimes real material questions about childcare and women's economic situation seems to be less when we talk about the kind of political discussions when it comes to women's issues. Oftentimes we're often debating what a woman is versus actually issues that materially affect women, like childcare.
Yeah, we seem to forget that actually the gender pay gap is predominantly caused by motherhood because of all these barriers that women face when they have children and they try to progress their career. So our very expensive childcare system is forcing hundreds of thousands of mothers out of the workforce. It's forcing hundreds of thousands of more mothers to work fewer hours, and that puts them in part-time, low-paid work where they find it very difficult to progress their career. There's also the issue, of course, that we don't have decent paternity leave. And if we ring-fenced and properly paid paternity leave, then we'd see a more equal share of the domestic labour. So we'd see more dads doing more of the unpaid care work. And that would mean that we'd have better equality in the home, and therefore we'd have better equality in the workplace. But all of our systems and structures force women to take a back seat in terms of their careers, and that means we see fewer women in politics, we see fewer women in leadership positions, and it means women earn less and are poorer throughout their lifetimes. They have far their pay.
OK, good stuff. Shirley, thank you very, very much. Shirley Brearley there, the CEO and founder of Pregnant Then Screwed. Thank you very much for your time. Well, coming up, gambling returns to its pre-pandemic level. And with an intensifying cost of living crisis, what does this mean for those who struggle with addiction? We'll discuss after the break. But first, let's look at this morning's headlines.
Good morning, it's 11:31. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Ukraine's president has told the European Union it acted too late to stop the Russian invasion by failing to impose sanctions and block the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline earlier. Volodymyr Zelensky says he's grateful to the EU for the steps they've taken, but urged the Union not to be late in accepting Ukraine's membership. President Joe Biden has announced a joint game plan between the US and the EU that will reduce Europe's dependency on Russian energy. As part of the plan, the US will provide the EU with at least 15 billion additional cubic meters of liquefied natural gas by the end of the year. The Transport Secretary has called on the P&O Ferries boss to resign after he sacked 800 workers without notice, replacing them with cheaper agency staff. Grant Shapps told GB News CEO Peter Hebblethwaite's actions were unacceptable, adding that he'll change the law so the company has to pay minimum wage. In the UK, the government's announcing a tenfold increase in public electric car charging points. The Department for Transport's investing £500 million. It's looking to boost the UK's 30,000 charge points to 300,000 by 2030. And in North Korea, new footage shows leader Kim Jong-un personally overseeing the launch of a new intercontinental ballistic missile. The country's state news agency quotes the leader saying the launch was designed to demonstrate the might of his country's nuclear force and to deter any US military moves. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says the Taliban's decision to shut school doors to girls in Afghanistan is unjustifiable. The foreign ministers of the US, Canada, France, Italy, Norway and the High Representative of the European Union have also condemned the decision. TV online and DAB Plus radio, this is GB News. It's back to Inaya and Patrick with To The Point in just a moment.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before. Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Yes, morning everyone, it's 11:36. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, and Inaya Falariman on GB News, live on your TV, online and radio this morning.
Yes, two Met police officers who strip-searched a black 15-year-old schoolgirl have been removed from frontline duties. A safeguarding report found that the search for the girl, known for legal reasons as Child Q, was unjustified and suggested that racism may have played a role. Well, joining us now is Lee Jasper, who is former senior political advisor to the Mayor of London, Ken Livingston, and Director of Policing and Equalities. Lee, thank you for joining us. I mean, is this too little, too late in terms of taking the police officers off frontline duties? I think some of the protesters, for example, were calling for a resignation. Or, you know, is this just the right move on the part of the police?
No, I think they've woefully miscalculated the extent to which there is widespread public outrage about what happened to this girl. We're looking at over 2,000 children who were stopped in search, and I think just under 25 of them are under 12 and being conducted to intimate body searches in our school. I don't think anybody was really aware that this was happening, and this child Q case has shone a bright light on it. The officers themselves should be subject to an investigation by the Independent Office of Police Conduct. But from what I understand, the status of that investigation is for general misconduct, which wouldn't lead to a sacking. I think very much the view in the wider community is this should be a serious misconduct. Child being intimately body searched without an appropriate adult or a teacher in the room really is a serious offence, and it should be treated as such.
What do you make of some of the that people have been saying that this is a phrase called adultification? I've been hearing this idea that young black kids in particular are often viewed as adults when they are really children, and they're not seen as children, and this is a form of racism. What do you think?
Well, I think research bears that out, and I think that black children, a study by Ofsted shows that black children were boys and girls were disproportionately punished in schools for like offences than their white counterparts. And we know that research, particularly coming out of the United States, show the extent to which white adults tend to view black boys as being adult men and black women as being in advance of their black girls being in advance of their age. So we do see that. And of course, if you're black and been brought up in this country, I have 5 boys and 4 girls, and my sons are quite big. I have to have that talk with them when they get to 12, 13, 14, which we call the talk, which is a father and son discussion about how they can mitigate the perception of them as a large, violent, potentially violent black man. And it happens time after time after time in everyday life. So it is a real thing. It is a real phenomenon.
I mean, on that point, I mean, is this, in your view, a systemic problem or a case of individual bad behaviour? Because the police force have effectively said it was unjustified, and they have said it was deeply regrettable. So in that sense, the police do acknowledge that this was a profound error and a mistake. So, I mean, where do you stand on that pendulum? Do you think it's systemic, or do you think it is just examples of individual bad behaviour?
Well, I was policing director for London for 8 years. I can tell you it's systemic. And I can tell you the huge struggles and the battles we had in order to reduce the level of discrimination in policing in London. It is systemic. And the child Q case actually demonstrates how institutionalised racism of both the school and the Metropolitan Police Service combined with devastating effect. And so that a 15-year-old girl, on the basis of the smell of cannabis, is strip searched without an adult. I can't see that happening to, a white child in a leafy Norfolk school somewhere, or indeed, in other parts of the country. So I think there is a differential.
Yeah, Lee.
It does speak to
sorry, Lee. Just because we're just sorry, but I appreciate what you say. It's just because we're a bit short of time. I just want to ask a question just before the end. As far as we're aware, we don't know what skin colour these police officers were yet, do we?
Well, we do, because there's only 2.9% African and Caribbean officers in the Metropolitan Police Service.
Right, so
I think
they're probably safe. White, or they're probably not. They're probably not Afro-Caribbean. Fair enough, but they might be, though, mightn't they? And would that change your perception of what's happened there? Because then it would go to, presumably, I don't know, presumably to a situation of these people have made a potentially catastrophic mistake, as opposed to it being because there was an undercurrent of racism.
Well, no, because black people are affected by the culture of institutionalised racism as well. And black police officers in the Metropolitan Police Service, through the National Black Police Officers Association and the Met Black Police Officers Association, will tell you, and that is their testimony. And so you can have black officers who often trying to prove themselves in front of white officers, going way above and beyond.
I guess some of the point might be that, you know, obviously we know on this occasion the child was black, but if the child wasn't black, you know, we wouldn't necessarily perceive it as racism. We would have seen it as a catastrophic error. So I guess perhaps the point is that, you know, what do we know for certain that this was motivated by racism? I mean, the report does acknowledge that racism is a factor. But, you know, I guess the question is it always helpful understanding it as a problem of racism?
Well, this is the same argument they put when Stephen Lawrence was killed, of course. They said it's an isolated incident. It's a gang-related matter. It's nothing to do with racism or racial. That is the stock response to all serious accusations of racism, is to deny it. And so that's what's happened on this occasion. We're no surprise. We know there's a racist element of it because the official inquiry says very clearly, we think race was a component in this child's experience. So the officers must have been one.
That's very right. I mean, but and finally, I mean, what would you like to see the police do? Because, you know, we have had discussions over the last few decades, really, and particularly over the last couple of years in relation to the tragic death of George Floyd, about police racism and so on. And, you know, when Cressida Dick was still head of the Met, she rejected claims that the police were institutionally racist. There has been measures taken. I mean, what would you like to see? Because it's a reoccurring cycle in terms of this discussion, a response, but there still seems to be, at least in your view, a big problem.
There's a big problem in terms of the Afro-Caribbean community in London, the majority of which, when surveyed by the Met's own policing and confidence poll, show a catastrophic drop in confidence, and not just for black people in London, for women in London in relation to the outcome of the Sarah Everard and Nicole Smallman and Bibba Henry cases. Look, I think that the reputation of the Met is deeply tarnished, probably beyond being able to be salvaged in the Met's current form. And so I think that just like the Royal Ulster Constabulary in Northern Ireland had to be reinvented in order to escape its past and become the police service of Northern Ireland, I think that this child Q incident is just one more example of the systemic failure of the Metropolitan Police Service, and I think we need a new police service for London.
Well, thank you very much, Lee Jasper, former senior political advisor to the Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone when he was the Mayor of London, and Director of Policing and Equalities. Thank you so much for joining us and discussing these really important issues. Yeah, you know, I do think that I don't, when it comes to the racism point, I think that's an open question, but undoubtedly there are systemic failings within the Met Police, at least in my view. I think that there is constantly very significant inquiries and reports saying that, you know, institutional corruption, neglect on so many issues. And I think that when it comes to crime, we are seeing, under Cressida Dick's watch, crime go up. So even on the most important metric of the police, actually solving crime, at least in the Met, we are not seeing that go down. So I do think it is fair to ask some serious questions of them.
Yeah, fair enough. One concern that I would have about this is that, look, this child was undoubtedly treated appallingly. So regardless of what the motivations were behind it, or indeed the racial demographic of those who ended up doing this, that child was treated appallingly badly. So that's a fact. I do find it quite concerning, though, if they've said in this report they believe there was an element that race was a factor, right? I'm concerned as to how people maybe decide that, how people maybe come to that conclusion. We don't know. It may well literally have been a very obvious factor in this case. So we have to reserve the right for that to be a possibility. But you know, when you start getting into unconscious or subconscious territory, that can be a little bit of a sticky wicket, as it were. And if it does turn out that some of these police officers were indeed black themselves, for example, then I don't know how well people are served by saying, well, you know, the argument there, well, they might have been doing it just to play up to their white colleagues. It's a bit speculative, that.
Yeah, and I think that would be, you know, rather peculiar to say the least. But I think I guess the point is that does something have to be overtly explicit for it to be considered racist. And I do think you're totally right that it's very difficult to get into the psychology and the motivations of people. But if this perhaps is a reoccurring factor towards a particular demographic and age group, then you can kind of start to wonder, why is that the case?
Indeed, indeed, yeah. Well, GBViews, gbnews.uk, I've actually got a lot of you going that particular topic, actually. We're just going to move away from that quickly now, though. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has condemned the Taliban's decision to shut school doors to girls in Afghanistan. There was kind of a tragic inevitability about this, wasn't there, really?
Yeah, I mean, she says denying their right to an education contradicts the assurances the Taliban had given to the Afghan people. I don't know if we can always trust the assurances of the Taliban, but they gave those assurances to the Afghan people and to the international community. Nargis Nehan is a former Afghan politician and former Minister of Mines and Petroleum, and joins us now, Nargis. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, as Patrick alluded to there, I mean, was this in some senses inevitable? I mean, did we not expect that they would take these kinds of devastating measures against young women and girls?
Well, thank you very much. As you know very well, that this is not the first time that Taliban promised one thing, but then they do not deliver. What we have seen in the last 3 years since they have begun to engage with the international community and as well as with the former Afghan government, that they keep on promising, but they don't deliver. In case of girls' education, unfortunately, they are using girls' education as a bargaining chip with the international community. While the Islam religion very clearly allow girls and actually require girls, men and boys to acquire education. But as you know very well, as soon as Taliban came to power, they did not allow girls to go to secondary schools. They did not allow women to go to their work, and they did not allow women to join the public institutions. And they kept promising to the international community and as well as to the Afghan people that it's only this year, and as soon as the next year, education year, which is the 23rd of March would start, we are going to allow girls to get back to school. And I think backdoor, they were trying to use that as a bargaining chip with the international community, and they were hoping that the international community will give them the recognition, and then they would in return allow girls to go to school. But since the recognition did not come, unfortunately, they did not allow girls to go to school. And we have witnessing girls going out, and these young, small girls, instead of getting to classes, unfortunately, you see most of them on the streets demonstrating for their very basic rights.
Yeah, so just to explain to me what life is like for an 11-year-old girl in Afghanistan right now. So they're not going to school anymore. I mean, what's their daily life like?
I mean, imagine about a situation where you're living in a country where you don't have any hope for the future. You don't have any hope for the betterment. And it's very difficult because even people, when they are in jail, the reason that they stay alive in jail is because they have the hope that they're going to be freed one day, and then they're going to continue their normal life. The problem that we are facing in Afghanistan right now, there are millions of girls that right now they're living in their houses as jail. And the problem that we're facing with the way that the world is quietly observing and unfortunately not doing anything about the situation, it is actually taking away the hope from us. So life is very difficult. You're living, you don't know what you're living for. You're not treated as a human being anymore. You don't have access to the very, very basic rights. Even for small decisions such as going to the doctor, you have to have a mail company to allow you and to take you to the doctor. So as a human being, you don't have any independency, you don't have any freedom, you cannot earn for yourself, you cannot decide for yourself, and the future seems very dark and bleak, and you don't see anybody around trying to help you out.
Are you just very, very quickly, Nargis, sorry, because we're going to have to move on shortly, but are you safe now by talking to us?
I mean, our point is very clear. I mean, right now, if you see the Afghan women are coming out and constantly they are demonstrating peacefully for their very basic rights, the international community still have the leverage through some of the regional countries that they have their influence on Pakistan, and as well as through the financial assistance that they're providing to the Taliban, because Afghanistan is a poor country and is financially dependent on the international community. The international community can use strategically these two leverages to put more pressure on the Taliban and convince them that they should not use girls' basic access to education, to work, to travel as a bargaining chip with the international community. And they should allow them to go back to school and get to work.
All right, August. Well, good luck. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, and I hope you're OK over there as well. Of course, August, in your hand there, a former Minister of Mines and Petroleum in Afghanistan. Yes, right, well, let's rattle on because we're running out of time, really. But new data released by GambleAware has revealed that the rate of gambling in the UK has returned to pre-pandemic levels.
Yes, to combat this rise, GambleAware has launched a campaign to raise awareness of the support and treatment options available through the National Gambling Treatment Service, which could help over 1 million people combat unhealthy gambling habits.
Well, Ian Samuel is the CEO of charity Break Even, which offers free counselling to anyone affected by gambling, and joins us now. Thank you very much. So, 40 years ago, as I understand it anyway, you began from suffering from gambling harms, and you were a problem gambler, I'm being told, for around 20 years. So, initially, would you mind just saying us what that was like, really, for you?
It was horrendous. I mean, you lose more than money, you lose everything around you as well, jobs, family. But it's a main difference. When I was gambling, I had to go and find gambling. Today, it's 24/7, you know, on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad. I had to look at when betting shops were open, when casinos are open, when you could go to a race meeting. Now you can gamble 24/7, 365 days a year on any device.
About gambling that did it for you? I understand there's a wider context of addiction and the psychology of addiction and all of that stuff anyway, but what was it specifically about gambling for you?
Chasing a dream, chasing money, wanting to be the wealthiest man on the planet. And with gambling, you know, once you've had a big win, which I had, you think that's always around the corner. But, you know, what you do, you develop an irrational thought pattern that gambling's a good way of getting money, when in reality, for many, it's a good way of getting into debt.
Yes, indeed. And obviously these are concerning developments now that gambling has gone back to pre-pandemic levels. I've got to be honest with you, actually, I'm quite surprised that it didn't spike during the pandemic. People trapped at home or sitting at home and maybe getting online that way. But are you seeing an increasing number of people now presenting themselves as problem gamblers?
Yeah, at Break Even, you know, we're the National Gambling Treatment Service across the south of England, and we certainly saw a rise because, as you know, we're all doing what we're doing now. We were on screens all the time, and people were, you know, working from screens, working from home all the time. And the way you can gamble now, you know, on your computer, on your phone, on your laptop, people are either gaming or gambling if they weren't working, or doing both at the same time, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that the problem of gambling is a question of a illness? Some people are saying that we need to treat gambling as a public health issue, but actually other people say that, you know, we need to have some personal responsibility. You know, people need to, you know, be able to make decisions for themselves. And even sometimes those decisions are very harmful ones and have to live with the consequences. And that's not necessarily the same as being ill.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to the question is for some, it's certainly a mental illness and it's certainly a public health issue. And that's what we work, you know, at very high levels with certain people. But it's not just about working with those people. It's about working with people that might be at risk of developing a gambling problem as well, in which way we'd work, you know, using different interventions.
Look, Ian, thank you very much. And just if anyone wants to seek your services now at Break Even, how can they go about doing it?
The best way to get in touch with us is via the national helpline, and the number is 0808 8020 133.
Good luck to you, Ian. Thank you very much. Cheers for coming on, Ian.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ian Samuel there, CEO of charity Break Even, of course, which is a gambling helpline, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes. No, I think Peter Hitchens, you know, the Mail on Sunday columnist, I think he's got a very interesting view of addiction. He doesn't believe there is such a thing as addiction.
Yeah, I mean, I would beg to differ. I would beg to differ. But who am I to disagree with Hitchens? Of course, Hitchens is a towering intellect amongst us just mere mortals. But at the same time, I think addiction is a thing.
Yeah,
that said, though, that it is a very fine line, isn't it, sometimes between, like you said, personal responsibility, personal choice, and then it becoming an actual addiction problem.
Yeah.
Look, thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in, not just today, but throughout the week, and emailed in and tweeted us, etc., etc., etc. I'm back on 7 till 9 p.m. for Friday Night Feast. We've got an absolute box office show for you. Lots of surprises up my sleeve this evening, ladies and gents, so you're not going to want to miss that. And you?
I'm off.
Oh, there you
Darren
go.
Grimes
Normally
will be taking my place, extending his show for an extra hour.
Good stuff, everyone. Take care. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. I'll see you later.
Hello again, I'm Aidan McGivern. Today, just like every other day this week, is dry for most, with sunny skies up and down the country, and it will feel warm in that sunshine with light winds under this area of high pressure, which is now centred across the UK. So very little airflow around that high. That means that under the sun, it will feel warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. There is some cloud to speak of, mainly for Shetland, where a few outbreaks of rain are possible through the afternoon, light rain generally, and some patchy cloud affecting the coasts of Western Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland.